Dr. Kevin Eggeriff is the founder of Marriage Partners Ministry, an inspiring author of 5 books, a television show host, licensed and ordained minister, and a marriage conference speaker. Today, he is going to share a common encouragement, and that will be 6 human needs. Please welcome Kevin Eggeriff. Kevin Eggeriff.
Hi guys, so I'll just start with a real quick refresher from last week when I went a little bit more in depth. So our 6 human emotional needs are certainty, significance, variety, love and connection, growth, and contribution. So I think that it's so important that we know what our needs are. If you don't know what they are, you can just go through life having this dull hunger, kind of this pain, kind of this desire, and not even have the vocabulary to express what that is, not even know how to seek out getting that need met. And I also think it's really important that we learn how to get our needs met in very healthy ways. If you can identify what it is, and then you can begin to identify healthy ways of getting them met, it will save you from a lot of trouble, a lot of heartache, and a lot of pain. So let's start with a story. This is a couple that gave me a call. They needed help. They wanted help right now, and they asked me to come out, fly out, and meet with them and give them some help. So I'll change their names for anonymous purposes. We'll call them Eric and Jill. So Jill started by expressing her deep frustration with Eric. And Eric, he would go out and he would work on neighbors' cars, single moms mostly, around the neighborhood, and he would spend a considerable amount of time doing that. And some of them were even, good looking, attractive. And Jill didn't like that at all. He spent a lot of time, he was around single women, and she just had a problem with that. And Eric, when I asked him his side of the story, he was dug in. He was ready for a fight. He started by telling me how it's a biblical principle that we should help single moms and we should help the widows, and being kind and generous and helpful is a biblical thing to do. And how can you argue against that? And so it was very, very interesting. He had a very set jaw, you might say, about his perspective and his point of view. So we started by going through just very basic training on marital negotiation, the policy of mutual agreement. And when you can understand the reason for your negotiation, to sustain romantic love, then it makes coming to an outcome so much more easy. So they started in on the process, learning about it, learning how to come to a mutual agreement. And it was really, really interesting because at the core of Eric's perspective were some really deep desires. And at the very core of Jill's perspective were some very deep desires, some human needs, in fact. So you've got to understand, when Erica would go out and he'd go over to a single mom's house, and she didn't have the money to get her car fixed. And so he volunteered his time and his efforts. And the single mom would be there. She was so appreciative of this, and she would let him know how significant he was in her life. And she couldn't really compensate him, so she would just pour on the accolades and pour on the appreciation. Well, think about it. What needs was this meeting for Eric? Certainly a need of significance, the way that one would feel about themselves. Certainly the need for contribution. I mean, she would let Eric know about, if he wasn't there to take care of this need for her, she doesn't know what she would do. And this is so significant in her life, so it made him feel like he was contributing. It made him feel a big sense of significance. And then quite often, these single moms, they didn't feel right about going in the house and let him stay out there work on the car all by himself. So they would stay outside and they would visit with him and just talk. And so it was meeting the need for love/connection, but mainly, of course, the connection side of it. Well, as you can imagine, he's getting a lot of needs met, and so it felt really, really good for him to continue doing this. Jill was very upset by that. And rightfully so. I mean, you got to think about it. This is a high risk situation to have an affair, for infidelity. This is kind of a dangerous setting. So at the heart of Jill's perspective, she had some strong desires also. Well, what were her desires? For certainty. I mean, think about it. If your spouse is out working with attractive single people, your sense of security and certainty is coming in danger. It's going to make you feel very concerned about that. So her need for certainty was not being met. Her need for significance. I mean, again, if your spouse is out spending a lot of time away from the children, away from home, at other people's homes, would you feel very significant? I sure wouldn't. So she didn't feel significant. And then, of course, the feeling of love and connection wasn't there the way that she would like it to be. So the core desires. They had a difficult time reaching mutual agreement, but when I told them to really dig into the core desires, the real emotion of it, of what each other was feeling from each other's point of view, it really helped them to come up with a mutual agreement so much more easily. You know, I always say that when someone is doing something that seems illogical or foolish, look for the underlying emotion that's hijacking the logic. When you can find that, all of a sudden, all kinds of solutions will become readily available to you. You'll see ways to solve this in so many more ways than you otherwise would have. So they came up with a really good mutual agreement. They decided mutually that Eric would stop working on single mom's cars, on anyone's cars, but especially the single mom's cars. He did finally reluctantly agree that it probably did put him in a high-risk situation for affairs and infidelity. Even though he didn't feel like he would ever do something like that, he realized that he was getting a need met by working on the cars. And that he would come home, spend time with Jill, they would go on more dates, he'd spend time with the children more. And in return, Jill agreed that she would pour on the appreciation to Eric. Now let me ask you this. How often do you guys need to eat food? How often do you need to eat?
3 times a day.
3 times a day. Okay. How often do you need to drink water?
8 glasses a day.
How often do you need sleep?
8
Once
hours
a
a
day.
day.
Okay. So I just want to be real overly clear. You've got to pour the needs on your spouse every day. Once a week is not going to cut it. Every day. So every day, Jill would tell Eric how significant he was to her, how significant he is to the children, to the family, to the upbringing, moral development of the children. She would tell him how he's making powerful contributions into the kid's life, and she would give him examples. Now this seemed a little bit contrived at first, but when Jill realized that she was feeling all these things anyways, it's just a matter of getting them deep out of her heart and expressing them in words. That's all it takes. She wasn't making anything up. She wasn't lying. She was just being very direct about actually speaking the words and actually getting them out. You see, when Jill, she had a little bit of hesitation of going along with this plan, of doing this every day. She thought maybe once a week would be good enough. Or, maybe once every 4 days. And so I kind of helped to convince her that, if you did this for your husband, how would it make him feel? What needs of his would it meet? Well, yeah, she agreed reluctantly. It would meet his need for significance and for contribution and for connection. And I said, now, if you can meet your husband's needs, does that make you a valuable person? Well, yeah, she reluctantly agreed it does. So are you contributing to your own husband by doing that? Well, yeah, she started to kind of perk up a little bit. So when you can meet your husband's intimate emotional needs, you're contributing to him in a way that nobody else can or should. Yeah, she agreed. Now she's getting a bit more excited. So we can do this every day. And if you're contributing and you are taking part in building your family, that makes you a significant person in this family, right? Yeah. So now she's getting really energetic. So now she can see how her needs are going to be met by doing this act. She's going to be contributing, and she's going to feel significant about herself in the building up of her family. So the solution was set. They decided to go ahead and do this. They did it for about a month, and then I got a phone call. He wasn't feeling quite enough significance. Just a little tweak. So he decided that he was going, they decided that he was going to start ushering at their church and taking part in the church. So he had a little more contribution. It was in a very safe environment, helped him to feel a little bit more significant about himself, and it's been just fine for years, just like that. So problem solved, solution was found, because he went deeper than the actual issue to the human needs. And I think that if you guys try this out in your own lives, you'll find it to be incredibly powerful. And you'll find it that you will be able to come to mutual agreement so much more easily. Thank you.